Good morning. This is the meeting of the a special meeting of the Hampden Board of Selectmen, being conducted in the Town Hall of Selectmen's office. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is anyone else recording the meeting other than us? Seeing none, would you admit Mr. Solomon?
There we go. Hey, Bill.
Can't hear you. He's muted.
These are the type of consultants you want. That's it. Quiet.
Okay, that should work. Hello,
Darn
good
it.
morning.
All right. What do you got?
Jeez, Bill, you got a tie on already and everything? Jeez.
No, you know,
I can't tell. Maybe a t-shirt.
can you hear us?
I can't. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good, thank you.
What you got for us, Bill?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking. All right, well, thank you, folks. Bill Solomon. One is, I've sent you a legal services agreement. I'd love to, as I mentioned, to be your counsel, special counsel for the cable license. We'll figure out what you need and we'll get there. And so if you can do that now or after I'm gone, if you'd like. As you know, the license quote expires, although the company's view is they continue and we continue. But there are protections for the town in the license, and so I fully agree with what I understand the board's position is that there should be some sort of short-term extension now, so that the license is clearly in place, particularly with respect to the financial and legal protections of the town, until a new renewal license is reached. So I've drafted up, based on short-term agreements I've done elsewhere. I've drafted up a short-term extension, which holds things in place. It's a 90-day extension. It talks about the parties working toward negotiating a new license agreement. And during that period of time, the town and charter will continue to abide by the terms of the license, and which remain in full force and effect. And neither party waives any rights they have under any law. And I'd like to thank Mr. Davenport for sending me some comments, and I incorporated the gist of those comments into my revised document I sent in the wee hours, by referencing Chapter 166A of the Massachusetts General Laws, which the state cable law, and referencing the state regulations. As I mentioned in an email, the law that's like people think of when who do this is more the Cable Act, but those other laws apply. Those laws have procedural requirements. But I also thought that it was best not to set out what the procedural steps are after the extension, because that opens Pandora's box to the company will say, well, let's talk about this and let's say this. And I wanted to try to keep it clean, which is, hey, this is an extension. And then afterwards, immediately afterwards, the town, the board, hopefully with my help, will be able to let the cable company know what we see are the next steps, or just to do the next steps on our part. And secondly, this document makes clear, as I said, that no party waives any rights. And, I didn't want to put future specific steps going forward, because the company might believe it somehow reflects that they didn't do something they should have done. I don't want to talk about the past. We want to go to the future. So that's, I asked the board to review that. And if it looks sufficient to vote it, as I wrote it, there may be some minor changes, and it's always hard to say what name the company is officially using. So there may be a change in the name. There could be some minor changes in the language. So I asked in the motion I sent that the board allow the chair to negotiate any non-substantial changes and to sign the agreement when the details are finalized with Charter. I expect to get that response today from Charter, and I expect that I will be done today with a final agreement for the chair to sign, and that would be prior to the expiration of the license. Charter's made clear, though, that they view that any expiration of the existing license by its terms would not affect their compliance going forward. But again, we want to cross the T's and dot the I's. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Bill, Bill, on the agreement for short-term extension, number 3,
Yeah.
right? You've got chapter 161A, I think it should be 166.
Yes, I'll change that. Thank you.
Okay. And the other thing is, I want you to understand, we're dealing with the Spectrum, who spent tens of thousands of dollars to defeat a fiber optic question at town meeting so that they could continue their monopoly. In addition to that, they didn't comply. They haven't complied. I mean, it says on 166.9 that we can't even consider this until there's a application and a license fee paid. So they haven't done that. In addition to that, we sent them an email about their participation in removing wires from double poles, and they
Yep.
never responded. So they really haven't been a good, and plus there's been a lot of complaints. So they really haven't been a good corporate neighbor or a good corporate citizen here. So that's a real issue with me.
Okay, no, yep, go ahead. Sorry. I thank you. They're very helpful. I was aware of some of that, but not all of it. And we'll work with each of those on each of those issues. There's different levels of authority, but the beauty of licensing locally is that it allows us to discuss issues with the company outside of the framework of the renewal with respect to what they need to do. So I've listed those down. Thank you.
Okay, so we need to do 2 things. We have to vote your contract
Again.
again. How many hours do you think it'll take you?
That was that one question back in the day, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I work on licenses across the state. My background was as you know, from Mr. Markle, Bob. I was a town council in Stoneham for 30 years. In-house, did all their work. So, in working across the state on licenses, I work with large towns, tiny towns. I pride myself in being cost effective. That I get the job done in a very efficient way with a good result. What's difficult here to judge is, and I'll be able to give you estimates as we go along. We can limit, work or not. But what's difficult to judge is, Mr. Chairman, that what work's going to be involved. For instance, I believe, at least based on the sheet that Bob Markle had said, there may be an extension of the cable system that's still an open issue. Is that right? An area where Spectrum will want to be paid to extend the system. At least there was a document I had on that at one point.
yeah.
No,
He had some location. This document had locations of these prices remain in effect. Let's see, 625 Main Street. Maybe not. All right. So then there's the issue of what sort of compensation, if any, would the town be looking for from Charter using your public way, which you buy and maintain, repair, police, insure, for their cable system. Because remember, Charter is under the FCC decision, which folks on my side of the aisle disagree with. FCC says if a cable company has a cable license, it gives them the right to provide other services like internet and telephone without the franchising authority, the licensing authority, the Board of Selectmen, regulating that or charging for that, so that all their rights, not only for cable, but their other rights come from being a cable company. If they weren't a cable company, they could get other permission to be in your right of way, but that's how they do it. So the question I've thought it here is, it's important for us to take a look at are the rates, and this is hard because, they don't publicize their rates, but we can try to get bills. Are the rates that Charter charges in Hampden, are they less because the board has emphasized the importance of cost and not wanting to take action, which would cause Charter to raise their prices? And that's the perfectly fine position to take. But I think to get it to renew the license, the first thing that we should look at is to see whether that's true, whether or not by not having a franchise fee, for instance, at the that the final rates that are charged by Charter are less. Because if they're not less, then the town's well-meaning and good effort to try to constrain rising cable prices doesn't work, because the Charter is in effect keeping the savings they have from the town. Now, you use a board. Now, if that'll take a little work, but not a lot of work. We just want to get some bills from different communities, from Hampden, and just take a look if we can figure out whether or not there's truly a savings. So, that'll take 8 hours, 5 hours, something like that. Then if the board decides that it would like to continue its current practice of not having a franchise fee, then the license really comes down to protecting the town in the document from gaming the system going forward to get out of obligations, protecting the public way, protecting the legal interest. And Charter, there's some challenges, but that's that's a doable task. And that process, that could take maybe 15, 20 hours, but what I say is, if I can get that done, and I'm doing a lot of Charter licenses now, and you get the benefit of that. So, and that's likely. So given that, I might be able to do it in, 8 hours or 10 hours. So what I can tell you is, as we go along, we'll understand the scope of the work, and I can continue to give you then estimates of what that work will be. But if you wanted a number of hours now, I'll throw something out. I'd say, first, let's try to keep it within 25 hours. But again, as we go along, we'll make sure that it's meeting your cost needs and your cost effectiveness needs. And I can promise you that I will get the work done in a cost effective way. We're not going to waste time or money. I do a lot of cable licensing, and my goal is, as it was as a town council for one town for 30 years, and I've done cable work for about 25 years, is to make sure that you get a good license in a very cost-effective way.
Okay. Good.
Bill, I got a couple questions about what you were saying, and they're going to dovetail into a couple different other topics. The Department of Telecommunications regulates cable, correct?
Yes, but most of it, their role in cable, other than if you reach out to the department, is very, very minimal. Other than sending you a letter saying, "Hey, where are things at?" They have a hands-off approach with respect to the license renewal matter,
So
which I think is good.
Would you say cable licensing is an unregulated commodity? Cable services?
No, but it's just like, the good news is, as I see it, is that the Cable Act gives the authority to the franchising authority, and that's you. So,
Okay.
but prices are, as you said, prices are unregulated. When they, 25 years ago, the 1996 Cable Act deregulated prices. So the board has no ability to control the price of cable,
Right.
but with respect to the issue of PEG access, as you know, public education and government access, and you folks do a great job on YouTube with respect to those issues, and financial and policy and legal issues. We have authority in that sense. We regulated this document.
What about internet? Is internet services unregulated?
Great point. Yes, internet services are not governed by the Cable Act. At this point, at one point, they were, at one point they were cable, and at one point they were telephone. The moment
Right.
they call it information services, so we can't control or affect the internet service other than, you know, if there's truly a large issue in town, at least we can raise the issue with people we know, because we know the cable people, because they have to get a license.
So my question was, you were talking about public way and the public licensing and that license agreement that we come to terms with Spectrum. You said if we grant them the cable license, automatically grants them authority to string whatever else they want on those lines too.
Well, right, municipalities, that's still something that's actually been remanded to the FCC, but under a 2019 decision that the FCC decided that those others, the cable company has a right to provide those other services and not be regulated exactly right by the franchising authority. So we don't have authority over those. But again, they need a cable license under their present approach in order to provide those services. And that's what's up now. It's not really whether they get a cable license, but how they get that. And
Yeah.
in theory, if the approach of a cable company didn't meet the needs at all or was violating its license, in theory, a town and sometimes does do something called a preliminary denial, basically saying we're not going to give you a new cable license. Now there's only been like 4 of those that have been finalized in the country, but that's a risk. But exactly right that we don't regulate those things, and cable company can provide it under the cable license.
I mean, I know it's a whole legislative thing, and I have an issue with, granting them a cable license, but then saying, hey, you have free reign to do whatever else you want on there, whether it's telephone, internet, or whatever. We have major internet issues here in town, which is why we push that fiber optic incentive that they spent, lots of money to combat here at a town meeting, and, we're a little bit bitter here because of that. They're
Understood.
providing poor service, they're not providing state-of-the-art service, and they're doing nothing to reinvest into our infrastructure. So I'm assuming they're this whole licensing agreement that they've let lapsed per, general laws that Mr. Davenport said is probably because in some type of retaliation for us wanting to go into a fiber optic program.
No, good point to raise.
And I'm not
challenge-
yelling at you, I'm just yelling.
No, yeah. No, the challenge with charter is that you're not alone here. The charter, in my view, and the people, their gentleman, the government affairs person, has moved on to I guess another place. So I don't know if they're with John Marr. John Marr has moved on to another job somewhere, and good for him. And they haven't replaced John yet. They have a person who handles government affairs from Connecticut, but is not a person who works on renewal. I actually view that as a good opportunity for us because I think at this point, Charter has a lot of things that they have to handle, and they're missing a person who handled the whole state and recently Vermont. It had been New Hampshire before. I mean, I can think of another large cable company that would have 15 people, 20 people handling that, not one. So I think, they have their hands full, and it's a good opportunity for us to say, look, Hampden has certain needs that need to be met. Here's what they are. Here's how we think it should be done. Here's a proposed provisions on those issues, and say, let's, the better part of wisdom is to get those done rather than have a public fight about that. So I think we have an opportunity here, but the bad news is that Charter is looking, as they see it, to the future, and as they see it, streaming and internet-based video. So as a result of that, and I want to be fair to them, but I want to be straightforward. They do not have the same commitment to cable that the largest cable company in the state has, and so we're not alone. But we want to make sure that if they're not going to do certain things in other places, they need to do it in Hampden in order to get to an agreement that's in their interest, not just ours.
My last question is, the town of Holland switched to Cox Communications, Cox Cable Services in 2000. They had the whole legal hearings and stuff like that. How would the town of Hampden solicit another provider to want to come in? Is that even a possibility? Are we stuck with Spectrum because they're
Yeah,
here?
no, that's a great question. I thought I had heard that, and Cox is in one other community in
I think they're in
Massachusetts.
four.
Okay,
Attleboro, Holland, and there's a couple other.
yeah, not Attleboro. I do Attleboro, but not Attleboro. But it's some right on the border. They do the full, as you know better than I. They do the full state of I think Rhode Island, I believe it is.
Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut, right? Connecticut. Sorry. So cable companies, typically traditional cable companies, don't overbuild. They won't come in. So I'll look with your help. I'll look at the Holland. My guess is that they were willing to do it because it borders Connecticut, and they may have even provided some of the infrastructure. But typically, unless there's something that's similar in Hampden, and you don't remind you border Connecticut. I apologize.
Yes,
I could throw a stone and hit Connecticut.
Okay. Well, like all things, and this is a very proactive board. There's no harm in writing Connecticut, writing Cox, and telling Cox you'd be interested in them coming in to Hampden, and then I don't think they'll say yes, but if in life you don't try something, you don't know. So I think that's a good suggestion to do that. Apart from that, Verizon is no longer building Fios that has cable, but they are building Fios for purposes of that's what they call their fiber for internet and telephone purposes. So we could reach out, and I know the players, to Verizon to find out the status of their service, fiber service in Hampden, and to see if they're interested in expanding that Fios in Hampden to provide hopefully all three services, but certainly internet and telephone. So I think that's also something that has maybe a more likely chance of success. There's a new company that's like the fourth largest in the country. It had been American Cable. I'm forgetting the name now. And I did a license with them in Haverhill. They're building up there. I think they're nowhere else. But again, to show the public that you're looking at all options and you're trying hard. No harm in sending that company a letter and speaking with them. And I know the government affairs person for the company, and
I
see
think
if
we
they
just
would
need
like
to
to
do our
respond.
diligence, as a representative for the public. We need to do our diligence to make sure we've looked at other options, because people are not happy with Spectrum in town. And if we just re-up a contract with them, they're gonna be like, what's this all about? Obviously, we have to do the public hearings and stuff, but as long as we say, hey, if there are other options, are they viable? We don't know, but we should search them.
That's exactly right. And I should say, you did the best thing possible. You looked into building fiber to the home. I should say that um, full disclosure, my wife is a town administrator in Leverett, and town of Leverett did the first fiber to the home. They have an amazing system, and a lot of towns in Western Mass, that didn't have, and most of them didn't have any fiber, or they had to have it extended if they had a company. So you took the best route possible. Doesn't mean you can't try it again. It's unfortunate that cable company put its oar in that fight. That's typically, other companies, at least two other I can think of, wouldn't do that. And so what that means, as the board is making very clear here, that Charter is a company that's like all companies, is the business, and it's not shy about trying to protect what it views as its interest. And the town is clearly articulated here today by the board members who have spoken. The town also appreciates that it's a municipal corporation, and it represents your residents and the taxpayers. You don't represent their subscribers, but you represent the residents and the taxpayers. And you need, as you are, to look out for the interest of the town and its residents, and in the same way as the company looks out for its. And that's what, I want to bring to the table. And our biggest, and at least my approach is that, these companies can do good, do a lot of good things, and Charter does a lot of good stuff, and there's good people. And we want to let them know that's the way we anticipate and hope that they'll address the issues that the town has. There are some things we'll disagree on, but there are other things that are reasonable and fair, and we'll be asking them to approach it in that manner that it can be a win-win. And if the town feels that it's not getting a fair answer, or not getting an answer, or is being bullied, well, the way we articulate that is at meetings and other ways, so that the public understands that we live in a world where these things get on the newspaper, get on the internet, go across the state. No company wants to be viewed as unfairly treating a small town that's trying to do the best. So I'm hopeful that with the board's very strong interest in this, as we'll express to Charter, that Charter is the kind of company that can come to the table and get things done, and we'll move cable ahead in town, and we'll also express the other needs with respect to internet service that Charter provides, so they can be aware of what it is that Hampden would like to see from Charter Communications.
Anything else?
Nope.
Motions?
Move to authorize the chair to enter into negotiations for extension, to execute an agreement for a short-term extension of the cable license. The chairman is hereby authorized to negotiate with the support of town administrator and special counsel, Bill Solomon. As the chairman may request the final short-term extension agreement. It's the intent of this vote that the agreement be finalized and fully executed on or before March 16th, 2024.
Extension.
Right, the extension, yes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
All right, Bill, you got some direction.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
thank you. I look forward to working with you.
okay,
Thank you.
have a good day. Bye now.
Bye, you too.
Anything else to come before the board?
Yeah, quickly, I saw an email just come in about an extension to the MRF program.
Oh, yeah,
And what they're saying is we were supposed to have a warrant article about this back in 2019. And I've
We
been
did.
scanning through the minutes and I cannot find it on any town meeting. And I swear this came up.
we did.
That's what I thought, we authorized to do it. I gotta keep
Yeah.
looking through.
Okay,
So-
we did.
Yeah, you recall it.
Yeah,
Before you, Craig, but I
Yeah,
know this came up. Yeah.
I wasn't here.
Okay, well, Craig didn't get it done. That was the problem, so.
I'm good.
So the board's
Motion to adjourn.
authorized,
What?
you gotta make the change before I sign it.
Yeah, then we authorized Don to sign.
okay,
The only thing we held up last time, we were looking for a kind of a guesstimate bill. How many hours do you think this would take? And that's all we ever were waiting
what
for.
do you say, 25 to start?
Well,
25?
we asked them for how many hours, and then we also asked them, how do we solicit other vendors?
Now,
Well,
it
we didn't
hap-
ask him, we asked Bob to facilitate all that.
Right, it happened a few years back that Long Meadow, all right, so Cox was gonna take over some communities in Mass, but that was because of a national thing that Cox and
Yeah,
Charters were
The monopolies.
swapping. And the FCC was gonna require them to give up certain territories,
Right.
but it didn't happen at that point.
So,
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Taking so long.
Well, I said it earlier, so it's all right.
Thank you all for tuning in. Shut
Do you
that thing
really?
up, shut that thing up.
Yeah,
Did you really?
yeah.